Hi, welcome to Online Appliance Tech. So today we're working on the Samsung washer. If you have a Samsung washer that fills up with water, looks like this and just keeps on dripping, more than likely you have a bad water inlet valve. So let's get started. The easy way to verify if you have this problem, just turn the water off. Give it a minute or two to see if the water stops dripping. If it stops dripping, more than likely that's your valve, that's your problem. So right here is the model number. Make sure to get the correct valve for your model before you order. Okay, so as we can see, it stopped dripping the water. So if we go back and turn the valve back on and it starts dripping right away, we'll know that's for valve or cold valve or hot valve. You can basically do this test with both of them. So you can start with the cold water, which is the cold valve, and the hot valve. But as you can see here, we're having a problem with the cold valve because as soon as I turned it back on, the water started to drip. Okay, so we verified that's our issue, so now let's turn it off and get started. So you have two Phillips screws on the back top of the washer. So just remove them real quick. Okay, now you're going to push the lid straight back and just lift straight off. Okay, so this is my cold water inlet valve, and this valve here they actually no longer make, so we had to find one on eBay or Amazon. It's a choice valve, it's a sub valve, but the OEM valve unfortunately they no longer make, so we had to go with this one. However, this is not the case for all washers. Most of the time you can find the OEM valve for the washer. Okay, so unplug the washer and take your pliers and let's remove the valve. To remove the valve, just turn it counterclockwise. Make sure the water is off, and then also once the valve is undone, make sure to, place it in the hole in the wall. That way it can kind of leak in the drain hole, not in your floor, or have a bucket ready. So like I was saying, just place it in the hole if you can fit it in there, or kind of have a way to hold it at the upright position so it doesn't fall on the floor and leak everywhere. Okay, right here you have two Phillips screws that you'll have to remove the valve. And this is counterclockwise. You can use a drill or a hand tool, whatever you prefer. Okay, so once removing the two Phillips screws, you want to take the valve and then slide or push into the machine and just slide it through. That way it gives you a little bit of leadway of moving it around and so forth to remove everything. So now let's disconnect the harnesses. Definitely make sure it's unplugged. And another tip, sometimes it's good to take a picture before you remove the harnesses. In this case, I basically know which way or where they go, but if you're new at this, sometimes it's good to have a picture. Okay, so once all the harnesses are removed, now we're going to remove the hoses. I recommend a pair of needle noses. That's the easiest way to get in between these little spaces. So just take the needle nose and clamp down the clamp and just wiggle it and slide it down the hose. One of the things I'd like to do is remove all the clamps from the hoses first, sliding them down the hose, and then remove one by one, as you'll see here soon. Okay, let's install the new valve. So like I said, if you do need this exact valve, I will leave the part number in the description below. Like I said, they do not make this valve no more. They only have the Sepco version, unfortunately. So now you're going to pull one hose off at a time. So just say you'll start from your right or your left, and you'll yank one hose off. You just kind of got to twist it or turn it until it loosens up, and then it should come off. Okay, there we go. So sometimes these hoses will have extra, or I would say leftover water. So I try to hold it in an up position until I get my valve, and then I'll just place it on the valve, and then I'll just lay it on the side, and then I'll take the next one in line, do the same thing, remove it. If you have to, you could take a flathead just to kind of pry it just enough to give it a little, or loosen it up, I would say, and then you can just pull it off the rest of the way with your hands for the twist. Okay, so this one's in line, so I'm going to put this on the valve. One thing I do not want to do is take all the hoses off at first, because then I'm going to definitely get confused and not know which hose goes where, and then you're going to have a big problem. So just basically follow this the rest of the way. Okay, now having all the hose on, now we're going to take the pair of needle nose and slide the clamp up to the valve to secure the hose. Okay, so I see you get the point, so let's go ahead and fast forward this just a little bit. Okay, great. So I'd like to take a flashlight and make sure I have the clamps nice and secured around the hoses to avoid any type of future leaks. Now let's slide the valve in through the hole. One thing you do not want to do is cut the grooves of the valve. If you do cut the grooves of the valve sliding it in, the hose will not go on correctly, so just slide it in very gently. So now we're going to install the 2 1/4 bit screws. Actually, these are Phillips screws, my bad. If you have trouble lining up the Phillips screw to connect to the valve, you can take the valve on the back side with your hand and kind of slide up and down until it goes into place, and then screw it in. Okay, so now we're going to reconnect all the harnesses. So these are fairly simple to remember how they go, but sometimes, like I stated, it's sometimes also good to take a picture, that way you're certain, and just remember do not remove all the hoses at once. Do one at a time. Okay, so when you're installing the water inlet valve, make sure the gasket is well and it turns freely. And then when you put the valve on, sorry for the bad angle, you want to line it up flush with the valve and also hand tighten it first and then take your pliers to tighten it down the rest of the way. I pull out the stem as I tighten it with my hand. This way I make sure everything's flush. So if it starts to go sideways as you put it on or it gets tight, do not go no further and just take it back off and start over. So now we'll just snug it down the rest of the way with the pliers, but don't over tighten it because you can also crack the valve. So just a nice snug but not too loose, like a happy medium. Okay, so I always use like a paper towel or some type of dry rag to wipe around the valve. That way when I turn the water on, if I have any leaks, I'll know that my valve is not on correctly. So we'll turn the water on and check for leaks. The best way to check for leaks is to turn the machine on and set it to the setting that you replace. So say we replace the cold valve, so I'm going to set the temperature to cold. That way I know I'm activating the valve that I just replaced, and that way I can check for leaks. Okay, so since the washer is running now, we can check for leaks. It's also good to check, any other type of hoses to make sure you have no type of leaks or leaks that may occur in the future. Also check where you connect the hose. Since you wiped it down, if you have any type of sign of water, definitely turn it off and see what happened and make sure you put the hose on correctly. In this case, everything turned out well. So as you can see here, we have no more dripping water, which is great. I do have leftover water in the tub because I stopped the cycle. Well, I hope this video was helpful, and please like and subscribe for more future tips and videos. If you have any questions, just leave in the comments below. Thank you and have a good one.